Okay, great. I see people already, there are people in the room who already have ORCIDs, but there's also people who are new to ORCID, which is great. So ORCID is the Open Researcher and Contributor ID. And it is a few years old. It's been around for, oh, I don't even know, maybe 8 or so years. Um, and it is a way to discriminate individual researchers. We're going to go through all of it now. It's a unique persistent identifier for researchers and for research related people. So if you are working in a research space and you contribute to grants, you contribute to publications, you contribute to data or code, you can have an ORCID ID. And it really is beneficial. It's like a digital ID. It's like your ID, your South African ID or your Mauritian ID that helps the country to know who exactly you are, even if you've got the same name as someone else. It really helps to understand exactly who you are. And it's also a way for you to get recognition for your research outputs in one place. ORCID is a free and open source resource. And in South Africa, we've got a consortium that is part of the ORCID um, ecosystem. And most of the universities and some of the research organizations are actually part of this ORCID consortium. So it's a unique ID. It's a 16-digit ID that is assigned to you when you sign up for ORCID. And it's provided to you free of charge. Attached to that ID is your ORCID record, which have information like your name, your surname, your email address, your affiliations, your employment history, but also your publication history, some keywords related to the research that you're interested in. And so you've got a whole ORCID profile. Now, the nice thing about ORCID is it creates what Alexandra was talking about earlier in terms of fair. ORCID is fair. It makes you findable. The way that ORCID is created also makes the data interoperable. So some of the universities in South Africa, many of the universities outside of South Africa in the global north, are using ORCID to also populate some of their databases so that you don't have to keep this information in many different places and update it in many different places. Journals have started to integrate with ORCID so that when you are submitting a publication to them and you submit your ORCID ID, that it also automatically can feed back to your ORCID profile so that when that publication is published, your ORCID profile is updated automatically. So you don't have to go and add that paper to your profile. And yeah, so there's organizations and publications that are already integrated with ORCID. Some benefits of having an ORCID ID is that it allows people to get accurate credit. So say, for example, there are two researchers that have exactly the same name. An ORCID ID can disambiguate who actually is the person who contributed to a paper, to a data set, to software, or to any other research output. It also helps to keep all your records in one place. So, for example, whenever I am publishing anything, whether it's this book, which we published on Zenodo, which is an open repository, or it is a journal publication, a journal paper, or it is a data set. Whenever a DOI is issued, the digital object identifier that gives my research output a persistent identifier, and I've linked my ORCID to it. All of those things can be saved in this one place in my ORCID record. You don't need to keep a different space for your thesis, and then you need a different place to keep your record of your publications, your presentations, even videos, and other data sets, other research outputs. It also helps with global visibility. So ORCID is a globally recognized ID, just like DOI, digital object identifiers, are globally visible and recognized identifiers. So regardless of where you go, whether you are currently a master's student at University of the Western Cape, or you are an established researcher looking for maybe, to go abroad and expand your research experience, or a postdoc looking for a new postdoc opportunity in the UK, your ORCID record will go with you. So this isn't tied to one institution. It is tied to you and will go with you and can continue to be populated wherever you go. And it is recognized globally. ORCID, yeah, as I said, ORCID data is open and fair. So you choose which of your information is made publicly available. Well, you choose which information you want to populate and which of it is made publicly available and what stays private. And ORCID also have an API, so application programming interface, which allow software to connect directly with the ORCID platform to populate and extract information. So say, for example, Stellenbosch University have integrated ORCID into their funding application platform. Then if you submit a funding application through the university system, you put in your ORCID, and that can already point to your ORCID record and the university, and you don't have to populate all of that. As I said, with all the open science practices and approaches, much of it is under development. New systems are being developed, new integrations are being put together. So it may be very different experience across the different universities in South Africa and globally. I just want to point out, many people in the room were saying that they are new to ORCID. If you are NRF funded, so if you are a student that are studying on NRF funding, the National Research Foundation of South Africa, or if you are a researcher who are funded by the NRF, you will be mandated to have an ORCID. Many are, increasingly funders and journal submission pipelines also require ORCIDs or encourage the use of ORCID. So it is a great, very simple, very free thing to have is to register for your ORCID ID. And we're also going to show you now how to do that. It takes almost no time to create your ORCID ID. What will take a little bit more time is for you to give permission to the different DOI minting services to add records to your ORCID record. That we'll talk about that, I think, in the next slide. So very quickly, if you want to create an ORCID ID, simply go to your to orcid.org and you can register. Just make sure to also check whether your organization have a unique registration page. So you might at your organization, and again, I know there are like probably the universities that are affiliated with the consortium may have a requirement that you register through the university. But not to worry, if you have already registered your ORCID, but haven't linked that to your university, that can still be done on a later date. So it can be done retrospectively. As I said, your ORCID travels with you wherever you go. So if you were going to switch universities, that would have to be done in any case. Then you can manually add your works. And again, in this new world of getting recognition for more than just publications, which not all universities have subscribed to yet, but which we are working towards to drive this new recognition because research spans so much more than just the publication. And there's no such thing as just the publication. It's a whole lot of work to write a publication, but there's so much work that leads up to the actual paper or publication. So you can add grant applications, you can add presentations, you can add open educational resources, data sets, source code. Any type of research outputs can be added to your ORCID profile. So it's really a holistic view of you as a researcher. What have you created? What has come out of your work? So you can add all of those works. As I said, there is an automation as well. I'm going to get to that slide next. And then when you are submitting publications or manuscripts, conference talks, anything on an open repository, your thesis, data sets, source code, even on GitHub, if you are writing code, you can now link your ORCID ID to your GitHub repositories. Look to see if there's a way for you to link ORCID, because that will allow you to automatically populate your ORCID profile with these outputs that you are creating, even while you are still creating them. So this is what, oh, that's mine now. Oh, we changed. Thanks, Alexandra. So this is what your ORCID record will look like. As you can see, on the top there is my ORCID ID, 16-digit numbers and letters. Mine was created quite a while ago, so it only contains numbers. More recent ORCID IDs also contain letters. You can put any links to your work. You can put any keywords to help people understand what work you are doing, what you're working on. You can also put which countries you're working in. Then there's an opportunity to put in your employment records. And again, the things that I've just shown you on the first screen is really discretionary. It's only you can put whatever you want if you want to put it. If you don't want to put it, I like it the ORCID ID to be overly populated, because this is the one place where I send people to see, like, if they want to trust my research or trust me to know what I've been working on. My ORCID profile really doesn't lie, so it's really a good place to send people. Then it allows you to add your works, and as I said here, so if this was a presentation that we did, it was with Alexandra. It shows you that it's published in Zenodo. It shows you the date that it was published on, the DOI of this work, who the contributors are, and you can see that the source is DataCite. Now, I have given DataCite permission to automatically populate my ORCID profile. So whenever I publish something in Zenodo, that record is automatically, well, I link it to my ORCID ID, and it unambiguously know that this should be associated with my ORCID profile. You might be familiar with other platforms like Google Scholar and ResearchGate, which often send you a list of publications and say, are these yours? And then you have to say, yes, this one is mine, this one is not mine, this one is mine, because it is probably working on your type of research that you've published in the past and your name, which is hard to disambiguate. So you can see there's a whole lot of things. There's a preprint that we've published. There are the slides, the book, and many other things that are added to the ORCID profile. So different ways to link ORCID to publishers. You can provide your ORCID ID during manuscript or data submission, as I have explained, which will then directly link it to your ORCID profile. And then when it assigns a DOI, when the publisher assigns a DOI to your publication, so at the point of publication, it will populate your ORCID record. And so that's how that linking takes place. Then we also said that you can link to other institutions and funders. The NRF, for example, you can log in or register with your ORCID ID. There are other ways that you can register as well or log in, but ORCID is one way for South African researchers who are logging into the NRF system. And then the same for your university. So different universities will make use of the ORCID profile in different ways if they are already connected to ORCID. And as well with your effort to find out if your university is already connected to ORCID and how do they use the information in the ORCID profile. And then I've explained that you can allow trusted organizations. And again, if your ORCID ID is provided when you submit these works, then they will automatically be assigned a DOI and published. Any questions? So Zenodo is one of the open repositories which we at Solarify use a lot and which Diplomics also use a lot. It's a free open repository for a variety of research outputs. You might be more familiar with your institutional repository or Figshare. There's a whole range of places where you can upload, but I'm just very quickly going to show you if you were on Zenodo and you wanted to upload a recording of a webinar or your slides or any other open educational resource. First of all,
even, yeah, or even I made a comment that perhaps you cannot or you cannot yet share the slides or the recording. You can still create an entry of the webinar as in metadata. So this was the title of the webinar, these were the facilitators. I think you will be able to do it without adding files. And you could reference that in your ORCID. Exactly. And I just wanted to add to Zenodo, we will say, so because I think that came up in some of the previous workshops. So it's free. Zenodo is free. It's very commonly used. It has been developed by several research organizations and is sustainably funded and supported by them. So it's something that is not going to disappear overnight or all of a sudden is going to start charging money. It's clear who is behind Zenodo. Okay, I'll hand over back to.
So if you wanted to upload your resource into any open repository, something like Zenodo, you will have an opportunity to upload your files. Then you will have an opportunity to issue a digital object identifier. Now, I'm not going to go into too much details here, but this will be different for different platforms. And not all repositories can issue a digital object identifier. Some repositories will only give you a handle, which is a web link, but which is not a persistent identifier. Only certain repositories can issue digital object identifiers, and those repositories will be affiliated with DataCite or the other one. I can't remember now. Crossref, exactly, to be able to issue digital object identifiers. Here you can see I'm getting my digital object identifier. That is what the DOI will look like for Zenodo. Then you can select your resource type. Now, Miriam, I want to show you all the different types of resources that you can upload into an open repository. Data sets, events, images, different types of images, lessons. If you're modeling, no, not modeling like on the stage, but data modeling or creating large language models or other, you can upload them. Then if you don't find your selection here, you can still add other types of research outputs. Physical objects. So say, for example, you've created a research, say, for example, you're an artist and you create a physical object, then you can still add that here as well. This will only have the metadata, as Alexandra was pointing out, for that physical object, because obviously a physical object isn't a digital object, it's a physical object. Posters, presentations, and then a wide range of publications, book chapter, conference paper, proceedings, a data paper, dissertation, a management plan, a patent, a preprint, deliverables, projects. So if you are doing projects and you have permission to work in the open, then you can add those things here because that all is part of your work as a researcher, right? But before it was invisible. With open science and with these platforms, it becomes more visible. If you are writing reports, again, before you upload anything, make sure that you've got permission to share openly. Some project reports might be privileged, might only be shared between the researcher and the funder, or if you are doing commercial research, that might be not allowed to, it might not be allowed to share that. But there's like a list of 30 or odd things that you can share here. Software, computational workflows, video, audio. So I hope this gives you an idea of the kind of things that you can upload. And once you've created all, you've added all the different metadata here. So the title, publication date, you add your collaborators and who created the resource, give it a little bit of a description, make sure that you add the correct license. And just now we're going to talk about licensing. Languages, also to make it easier to find. The version, this is mostly relevant to data or software. Funding, some of these metadata elements are optional, so don't be scared. But the more complete you give your metadata, the better quality metadata you'll have, which makes your resource more valuable. So once you've completed all of this, obviously now it's not going to allow. Let me quickly do just a random resource type. Let me just do a random. Okay, there we go. So now I can go to preview. Why is it unhappy with me? Record save without basic information. Something.
Creators, you need to add who are people lower in red. Yes, just here, right.
That's me. So you can see here, it automatically knows me, my ORCID ID, and my affiliation because that is how I'm registered. I could also, this is quite nice, which I can also show you. It can also show what role that people play. So just like I explained before, so many research outputs aren't recognized as research outputs in the research ecosystem. The same goes for work being done. So an annotator of a data set, a data collector, a data curator, data manager, an editor, a hosting institution who has the rights, or maybe like Northwest University hosts the metabolomics platform, if I remember correctly. Product leader, project manager, project member. There's a whole lot of different roles that people can play. And sometimes you might want to list a research group as the creator. You're maybe not going to list every person separately, but that's also a very, very good way to give credit to everyone who has contributed to a research output. So I can save it there. And now if I go to preview, you can see here, this is what my record look like. I've got minimum input here. So I don't have a description. I don't have other collaborators, but you can see here my ID, my ORCID ID is also linked. So if someone clicked on this, it will take them to my ORCID ID. The there is the file that I uploaded. Oh, it was my Zoom background. I'll delete it before I actually create this. People can preview that or download that. And here you can see the citation that's already been created based on the information that I provided. So this is a really, really, really useful way of making your research outputs more visible, more usable by yourself and others, easily shareable, so more fair. I'm going to delete this one before I publish garbage. And I think this probably takes us to the break, Alexandra.